This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mac and Jack Saturday Debate Show. I am Jamie Paggs, the Philly sports guy, here with both Mac and Jack, the elder statesman of the sports world. Good morning, gentlemen. See, that was a better announcement.
Wait. I never heard it put like that. I don't know how much was about what you just said. Another episode? What do you mean it's a show? What do you mean an episode?
This is an episode. What do you think a show is? It's another episode of the show, the Mac and Jack Show.
Okay.
Of all the things that I said there, he's yelling at me about how I introduced the show, the episode, not the elder statesman of the sports world.
Not an episode. An episode is an incident that maybe took place. I mean, it happens.
I bet you if you look up the word episode, there's about 3 or 4 definitions of part of Webster Dictionary that says.
I'm going to tell you guys, we're kind of lagging behind a little in the program. There's so much information that's coming through. I guess I'll start off with something we should have talked about yesterday. And I'm not hosting. You're more or less, you and Mac host, I'm an analyst or whatever. We want to give ourselves roles on this show. But let me start off. Because I wasn't given the ball yesterday on this. If I'm wide open, the ball's supposed to be passed to me. It wasn't, but my fault more than anyone's.
Yes.
I should have brought it up. A couple of days ago, the sports world suffered a loss. Ernie Shavers, former heavyweight contender, passed away at age 78. Myself, predominantly being a boxing person, I had intended to talk about Ernie Shavers, and some of you are too young to remember Ernie Shavers. He may have been before your time. Ernie Shavers was basically, his era's Deontay Wilder. What Deontay Wilder is to this era, Ernie Shavers was to his. But it was a little different, a little adjustable in this sense. Ernie Shavers never won a world heavyweight title. He came close, but he never won one. But he fought on balance much better opposition than Deontay Wilder ever did. Ernie Shavers challenged Muhammad Ali for the heavyweight title in Madison Square Garden in September 1977. I was at the Garden. He lost a pretty close 15-round decision, had Ali hurt a couple of times in the fight. He had challenged Larry Holmes for the title earlier in his career, and he knocked down Larry Holmes heavily, hurt him very badly. Holmes survived and stopped Shavers in the 11th round. And Holmes had previously, before they were champions, won a decision over him. But Ernie Shavers was a murderous puncher. I was at the Garden in June 1973. He knocked out Jimmy Ellis in the first round. Jimmy Ellis a top-of-the-line fighter, had hurt Ernie Shavers in the corner, was pouring it on. One uppercut, knocks out Jimmy Ellis, okay? He knocked out Ken Norton in one round. Now, Ellis and Norton was still good, but that was the start of their decline, their one-round knockouts against Shavers. But he can be a very erratic fighter. After knocking out Jimmy Ellis in one round, he got stopped by Jerry Quarry in one round. So Shavers' thing was a lack of stamina, but for pure power, when Ernie Shavers was fighting, and you ask people who was the hardest puncher they ever saw, the consensus would be Ernie Shavers. Okay?
Well, Jack, how about George Foreman too? You would have to say George Foreman was one of the hardest punchers in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. But even though Shavers was around during Foreman's time, the consensus was that Shavers was a harder puncher with one punch. Few would argue with that with one punch. Foreman would kind of throw the big looping, powerful punches, 2, 3 at a time, hurt you that way. Shavers would have one right hand right down the slot. Yeah. Okay? And Shavers fought so many top guys. He knocked out Jimmy Young. Okay? And as I said, Jimmy Ellis, Ken Norton, and in turn he got stopped by Ron Lyle in 6 rounds. But a lot of people feel when Lyle was knocked down, Lyle was given a long count, which helped him, survive and then win the fight ultimately.
And another great fight was Lyle Foreman, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. But we're paying tribute to Shavers here.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, exactly. Lyle Foreman was a great fight. Shavers was in a kind of similar ending like that. There was a fight against a fighter named Howard Smith. You could see it on YouTube. Shavers ran out of steam in the last round. It looked like he was going to get stopped, and all of a sudden his power bailed him out, and he won by a knockout. Very charismatic heavyweight of his era, Ernie Shavers. Some people feel he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Actually, I don't want to get that far. Sometimes our emotions get the best of us. When something happens to someone, we're ready to put him in the Hall of Fame. We get carried away on a certain wave, and we don't see the reality of things. He's probably a little short of being a Hall of Famer, Ernie Shavers, to be quite honest about it. But few heavyweights provided the type of thrill, he did during his career. And he's very much, remembered to this day, decades after he fought.
Yeah. Great job, Chuck. Great job.
And didn't he fight? Didn't he actually do something like he almost beat up Stallone?
Sylvester Stallone? One. Yeah, good one. Supposedly he auditioned for part in Rocky, and he hit Stallone once, and Stallone thought, he doesn't want to go through that. This isn't, for Stallone. I don't know how valid that is. I really don't. Some fighters are a little bit like that. Some guys can hold back. Some guys we can't. I don't know whether Mac recalls, because we had so many guests in the past. I have a hard time recalling all of them. But we had on this former fighter, Johnny Turner.
Oh, yeah.
He's not famous, but he had a part in the movie Raging Bull. And when he came out to spar with Robert De Niro for the scene, he dropped De Niro with a body punch. And the producers rushed the ring, and they were furious, but De Niro got up and said, let's go, let's continue. And then he knew to go easy with De Niro, but some guys don't get it. Remember Tony Zale and Rocky Graziano? Rocky Graziano, after being middleweight champion, became a well-known actor. He got Tony Zale a part in a movie that they were doing, because Tony Zale was his great rival in the ring. They had a great 3-fight series. And Zale immediately started beating up the actor. And, Graziano grabbed him. What the hell are you doing, Tony? Are you out of your mind? And Tony and Zale said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Some guys can't hold back. It's in their nature, unfortunately. And some guys can work with you, go very, very easy. I know with sparring with Vito Antuofermo all the years, Vito knew how to work with guys. He'd know not to go all out 100%. But then you hear about guys like Jerry Cooney, a great guy outside the ring.
Yeah,
everyone knows Jerry Cooney, but he didn't know how to hold back in the ring. It's like a switch goes, and you probably experienced that in football, Mac. Some guys know it's a scrimmage. They'll do enough to do their job. Some guys will take that extra shot that's unnecessary because they have their game face on and they don't know how to take it off even in practice.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure, Jack. That's for sure. That red shirt don't mean nothing sometimes, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh, the scrimmages we see all the time. That's why fights are sometimes breaking out. Some guys don't mean to take a cheap shot, but it's in their nature. They just don't know when to shut the switch off.
Yeah.
But Ernie Shavers, unfortunately, dead at 78. 74, 14-1, 68 of those 74 wins by knockout.
Yeah, I never like to hear boxing records. It's not like, other sports. It's deceiving, okay? Because you could pad a guy's record, make it look better than it is, and someone with certain losses could be in with a lot of tough opposition. But a lot of losses in boxing happen towards the end of somebody's career. Okay.
I figured like at the very end or at the very beginning, as somebody comes in where they just don't have, as they're going up the ranks, I feel that when you're a boxer, If you go from like middleweight to heavyweight or something like that, and you're
Yeah.
putting on that extra weight, it takes a minute for your body to get used to that, and you're going up against a heavyweight who's in their body already, and you could lose that first fight where it's not necessarily, it may not be necessarily a loss. It could have been like on the cards or whatever, and it went. You just wind up losing on points and things
Well,
like
yeah.
that.
Well,
I feel losing on points should be lost by knockout and lost by points. They should actually put out some, almost like it's an overtime loss in hockey. Similar situation that they should say, here, you lost, you went the distance and lost here, but you got knocked out here.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we had like a certain debate on one of our debate questions in the past. Who was great in their prime, Roy Jones or Floyd Mayweather? You can say Mayweather had the greater career because Roy Jones suffered a lot of losses when he was past his prime, and that's got to count. It's got to count for something, because if you won those fights, it would elevate you. So you lose them, you should have taken them. That affects your career. But at the absolute best, it really wasn't that close. Jones was, better than Mayweather. By how much you could debate. You could say, if you said he was clearly better, you're not going to get a big argument from me. But he was better because Jones lost only a handful of rounds during his prime, and all his fights combined, he lost a handful of rounds, maybe 5 rounds in all his fights combined or whatever. And Mayweather would lose a few rounds per fight, So,
Guys, we should probably get to the debate questions about that mistake.
Well, you know what? I was thinking that talking about losses, there was a loss yesterday, and I'm not talking about the Phillies because they had a big loss, but there was a loss yesterday that everybody was around to see. In fact, I was watching the match myself. Serena Williams gets knocked out in 3 sets yesterday, 7-5, 6-7, 6-1. Unfortunately, she gets ousted by Tom Jovanik. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right.
Right. You said it right. But the thing about it is, too, Pags, if someone didn't know we were talking about tennis, they'd think we were still on boxing. You said knocked out. Why not eliminated?
Yeah, how about that? There you go.
Yeah. But I watched the match. I stood up and watched the match. And the reason I watched the match was because supposedly it's Serena Williams' last match of her career, but I'm not sure. I have a feeling she's going to make a comeback. You want to know why, guys? Because when they interviewed at the end, she said, I wish I had started training a little earlier. She's, to paraphrase, because she said she was getting better and sharper as it went along. And she might be thinking to herself, I can do better than this. I could have won yesterday's match. I could have maybe won this tournament. There's still something left. She might think that.
So she's going to do another movie like Rocky Balboa. Not Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa, where he's got stuff left in the basement.
There's Rick saying,
Rick, I have some extra Hall of Fame passes that would have gone to Rick in free. So no sympathy for me. They doubled the rate. I have a few. I had connections up there back in the day, and they can't take my free passes back. Okay, but
they're like stamps. They're forever passes.
Right.
Yeah, one of those. Right, exactly. But Serena, she let the first set get away. She was leading. She got edged out 7-6. She won the second set. But people were having fun in the third set. She had something like 6 match points where she was down 5-1, about to get eliminated. And she kept saving the match. She knew she was going to lose because she was down so far. 5-1 is the equivalent in tennis of being down 7-1 in baseball. And you just,
with two outs in the ninth. You know what I mean? You're not really gonna. You don't expect to come back. You could try, but you're not gonna.
Right.
It's likely you're not coming back.
Right.
You chip away, you're down 9-1, you get one guy on base, the next guy on base, the next guy on base, and the crowd is kind of getting a little into it. But she kept the match going. It was entertaining. And, and with so many great athletes like Serena, to sum up, they're given the adulation at the end of their career when they become human, because she wasn't human as a player for most of her career, because she was so great, so dominant, so head and shoulders above maybe not only her competitors in the women's tennis world, but arguably of any athlete in any sport. You can make an argument that Serena was, they used the pound for pound phrase, sport for sport. The number, the greatest athlete, during her era, and if this is her retirement, we wish her well, but we're sure she'll be involved. She'll be in the limelight one way or the other, but we really appreciate, her career, along with her sister Venus, as well.
Right. Well, and I what I noticed is that she was getting a tremendous amount of love from the community at large. Obviously, it was a very hot ticket to have. There were a lot of celebrities out in there, just looking to see everybody from Billie Jean King to a number of stars.
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee was there.
Right.
Spike Lee is everywhere. I mean, no.
Well, you know what? That's the first time I've seen Spike Lee at a tennis match. I usually see him on the court at the Knicks games, where he's trying to taunt the other players. But, ultimately, I guess he finally got done crying that he didn't get Mitchell and was able to go out.
I need to bring in, if we run out, we're going to start out debate questions soon, but if we have time left over, I have a great other question we can debate, me and you, but Pax can't debate it because of a conflict of interest. Who is a more effective fan at rattling the opposition, Pax or Spike Lee? That's going to be...
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Wait, let's save that also for Jeff Coat maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to get in on this. Who would have more of an effect? Yeah. Yes.
So, and here we go. Carlos coming in and saying that he thinks that Spike Lee was at the U.S. Open when Agassi retired. So
I went to one U.S. Open final in my life. That's when Agassi won the U.S. Open. And you know what I remember about that? At the end of the match, Agassi took off his shirt. He threw it into the crowd. And I remember when I'm leaving the stadium, the fans holding his shirt and just walking by me. I guess they didn't realize the value, the memorabilia, what you could sell it for, the shirt Agassi won. I'm sure someone would have paid him 50 G's for that shirt. Someone's out there.
Guys, Keith just posted to Facebook. I didn't realize that he was able to do that. I didn't know. So
do what? Keith
post to Facebook. Yeah, he posted to Facebook. And I thought, because he's in Canada, that he had a problem doing that stuff.
Oh no, I think they have Facebook in Canada.
Mac, come on, man! You don't think that Facebook in Canada?
I tell you what. Let me do this. I'll see if he's available since we don't have Doc on today.
Okay.
Let's see if he's available to come on the show.
Okay. Yeah, get him in. Come on, Keith.
Since he's probably watching.
Let
Yes.
me tell you, I like our crew the best. I don't like getting certain guests.
Oh, stop.
No. I like our crew.
Because we don't let him get a word in edgewise. We start to overtake him.
There you go.
I know. I mean our regulars. That's what I mean. I don't mean us three. I mean, that's why you did the thing. I'm talking about all of us who are regulars. Rob Butler, all of us. That's what I mean by we. But last week, I'm a little mad, Pags, because Mac and Jeff Coat took a cheap shot at us. I was explaining we never played the game on the NFL level.
Right. That's right.
Of course, Jeff Coat cuts in there saying, oh, no, I never played the game. We weren't referring to him. Like, what do you mean we don't know that? Were we nerds or something? I mean, I didn't like it, but
Well, we know that Jim is old now, and he's trying to
Wow.
do whatever he can. You know what I mean? It's like the golf is now his life, and when you start
Yeah.
playing golf at his age, obviously he's got to get the walker out to make sure he can get around the course and everything.
you know why
So
they take up golf at Jeff Coates' age? I'm going to tell you why. Because they don't want to work out in the gym, and they rationalize that's how they keep in shape.
I will tell you, I know, and I know firsthand that guy gets up at 5 o'clock in
Yep.
the morning to go hit the gym every
Yep.
morning.
He
I
does.
wish I wish I had that level of commitment
Yes.
at waking up in the morning to go work out.
And
Because I would be buff. You would see me like Andrew Tate out there. I would be that guy wearing my no shirt. I'd be coming on this show with no shirt on, flexing my muscles and all that fun stuff. We'd have a whole bunch of viewers just coming on just to see my physique.
I don't know.
Well, Jeff Coat, yeah, of course he's gonna beat you in arm wrestling. That's gonna happen when you go.
I tell you, that's a harder thing for him to do.
Yeah.
I'm strong, but I have more technique in arm wrestling.
Well, what we'll do is
Yep.
I will tackle him while you're arm wrestling him, and then it'll divert his attention. Okay.
Okay. What
it doesn't matter whether he's listening or not, Rick, because I'm sure somebody's going to send him the video.
Go ahead, Rick.
And I'll see him tomorrow, and I'm sure I wind up having to hear about it
There
then
you
too.
go. There you go. That's like Jack with Too Tall Jones. He's waiting for you, Jack.
Here we go. Carlos coming up here with a boxing question. Starting, I know we haven't gotten to our debate questions yet, but let's.
No, I'm not going to be out in Vegas for that. I was given the opportunity, actually. I have too much going on back here. Very quickly, I'm not going to talk boxing long. We have the debate show. But to answer Carlos's question, I like Canelo in the fight with Triple G. But before their last fights, I regarded Canelo as being a lock to win the fight. Not as some doubt, because Canelo looked a bit ragged in his last fight against Dimitri Bivol, but it's a different type style in Triple G. In Triple G, after being a little shaky in the early rounds against Ryan Murata in his last fight, Murata's a pretty good fighter, from Japan. Triple G turned it up a notch and looked really good in stopping Murata. So there's some doubt there. Canelo should win, but it's no longer the lock I thought it was before their last fight. I could see a path for Triple G winning. And also, you kind of wonder, with all the controversial scoring in Canelo's favor, sometimes it turns around and the judges become very conscious of the criticism. Right. And they give it to the other guy. It happened with Ali. It happened with De La Hoya. It could happen with Canelo. Let's lead off with the debate question. What do we have here, Pags?
All right, starting off with the first debate question, which I'm going to go right out with this one because I'm sure that I have a much different opinion than you guys. Should clubhouse music by teams? Explain where this question came from, Jack.
The question came. I saw one of the old school things that obviously didn't happen recently. Jimmy Rollins nearly got into a fight with Cliff Lee in the Philly clubhouse because Cliff Lee was reportedly playing a certain type of music and Jimmy Rollins didn't like that music. Okay. And so the feeling is, if I'm a player, we could put ourselves in their spot in any office, anywhere, let's think of the workforce throughout the world. You go into an office, people have different tastes in music. And I'm not putting down any particular music, okay? But you just sometimes don't want to hear it, okay? And you like your own type music. Let someone wear their own headset, and so they only hear the music they want. It's like forcing your music on someone else. Okay, I just don't like it. It leads to a certain tension, and it's inconsiderate too, to just put on your music and not ask anyone what they like. And especially a team, you have a clubhouse full of guys. You have different cultures. They're not all going to like the same music, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I basically listen to just a couple of channels. You know, when I put on the radio, I have Sirius radio. I don't keep turning to all the different eras, all the different styles. I mean, that's just me. You know, I respect what someone else might like, but I don't want to hear it if I'm coming into the clubhouse each day. What does it mean? The first guy who gets there's entitled to put on his music and blast it? No music should be allowed, period. You know, end the discussion.
Go ahead, Mac. I want to hear what you got to say.
Listen, I disagree with that totally. We're all supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be, even though we're playing the kids' game. And if I want to play whatever it is, that's just too bad for everybody else. They can't tell me what to play. That's my freedom of choice. So if anybody's going to tell me what to play when they come in, there's definitely going to be a fight, guys. Definitely.
And I have to almost agree more with Mac than with you. It's a curmudgeon way of looking at things when you're saying, "No, can't be having any music here." It just sounds like you're an old man, with a broom sweeping guys away from your grass because you don't want somebody walking on the edge of your grass as they're walking down the sidewalk.
Get out of my yard. Get out of my yard.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think that there should be more consideration where where you're playing the music, you shouldn't just hear all different types. But you know what? When you're in your locker room and you're blasting the music in front of you, there's somebody else also blasting music in front of them.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, I got to imagine when you're walking into a locker room that there are hundreds of different songs that you could hear. The one thing that I got from the military is that I'm hard of hearing now. So it's a lot harder for me to hear things. So when that's going on, all I hear is noise. And it doesn't really matter to me.
What's better than military music to get you pumped up, right? I mean, we're going to war. Here we go. It's just like football, so that would be awesome.
Okay.
I'm big on horn music. When you start to add horns to music, music sounds better in general. Yes. So, and in a lot of the music today, you don't hear the horns. The horns have disappeared from bands, obviously, because it's harder to keep. You have to have so many of them. But there you go. And you do have some people talking about this. He says, when we're at work, we're not talking about playing sports. We're talking about what we do for work, and music becomes a hassle. We can't have music in the background here while we're doing our thing right here. It's impossible because it would drown us out. And it would
don't want that.
I know. Listen, guys, I know when I'm watching a boxing match, they're playing music now, okay?
Right.
And I kind of, in a way,
right.
I kind of like rap music to an extent, believe it or not, even though you wouldn't think looking at me, I would. But then but hearing the cursing, I don't like that. And they'll play a song where there's cursing throughout the arena, blah, 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 and the words or whatever. And I'm talking about in the locker room, though. In the locker room.
I understand.
Some people might object to that. Some players, you might get a guy who's extremely religious. He's coming in with a Bible in his hand, and then he's hearing this cursing during a song. He might object to that. Okay.
Yeah, I know that Tim Tebow was always talking about not being able to play Meek Mill. I don't think that had anything to do with any of that.
But then you get country western is great. Country western is wonderful, but certain young men.
Hey, if you play that song backwards, you get your truck, your dog, and your wife back.
Then if it's the manager tunes in the movie, the music Sinatra on there. Sinatra is great.
Yes.
But some young people, they just don't, they want to hear their own music.
No, they like that music too, Jack. I had one would Fly Me to the Moon, and they were jamming to it. So.
I think this is a way to settle it. If there has to be music, if it's baseball, let your starting pitcher decide on the music every game. And the other players might give in to that because he has to relax. He's your starter. The idea is winning. So everyone would put up with it. The other players would go, "Oh, darn it, I hate this. Listen, he's the starter. We want him to be in a good frame of mind. As much as we hate this music, we'll put up with it." But you'll have guys with earmuffs listening to their own music. Why do they have to have any darn music? They should be concentrating on the game.
Oh,
Isn't that the whole idea?
Again, that's get off my grass, that's that whole attitude that you have there. And real quick, just to answer this question, everybody knows I'm a Philly fan. I'm not a big fan of the Mets. However, I talked about this when we start it up. I thought that was awesome how they did that with Edwin Diaz. I'm a big fan of walk-up music. I know that the Phillies, as we were talking here, it's hard to blast Frank Sinatra. There's a Philly that walks up to Frank Sinatra. That's life. So it's you can blast it. You can blast it, and it'll work out well. But I have to say that watching Timmy Trumpet play the music for Edwin Diaz coming out, I thought that really that. First off, I like the song that he comes out to, and I find stuff like that is fun in baseball. But to have him come out there and he snuck out onto the field and then played that, especially for that type of game where it was a playoff atmosphere in general. Yeah, they just took the lead, and he wasn't coming in to close the game. He came in the 8th that inning, but the fact that they were able to do that and get the crowd that pumped up. I dig that stuff. That stuff is exciting to me as a fan.
Tags. Again, you're twisting the rules. Again, you're twisting the question. It's in the clubhouse.
I'm just answering our listeners. I'm talking to our listeners. I'm not talking to you there, Jack.
I don't give a darn. Let them play any music the reliever wants coming in. No one cares at that point. The other players are happy to let the reliever have his music. They don't want their music played then. I mean, whatever the reliever
wants. As they're talking
in the clubhouse, 3 hours before the game, 2 hours before the game.
I agree.
At the end of games for the Phillies, they play.
Start me up.
Yeah, just what makes that little old that rubber tree plant type song. It's
High Hopes.
High Hopes, that's it. They play that after every win.
Right.
Balboa played that in the movie Rocky Balboa, coming into the ring, poorly arranged to play Sinatra, High Hopes. But notice the early Rocky movies, there was no music when they entered the ring. One question I don't know the answer to. I'm completely stumped. And I checked with my buddy Don Majeski, the greatest boxing historian in the world. He didn't know the answer. Right. When did music start as a walk up to the ring for the fighters? I'm not sure exactly when. The FBI would have to do the most intense investigation possible, and they might not even get the exact answer. When did it start? What fight? No one knows exactly.
I think it was the early 70s, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No.
That sounds like something that would have happened with Muhammad Ali.
Walk-up music?
Possibly, Pax. And let's not forget about Mariano Rivera with "Enter the Sandman." I mean,
right?
How could you
Did he play Sandman in the clubhouse, guys? We're talking about the clubhouse. We're not talking about walk up from the bullpen. They can use, like I said, any darn music they want. That's
wow. Here you go. You want to? I just Googled it. Who was the first boxer to have walk up music? Walk-on themes became a big hit in boxing after former world champion Muhammad Ali used the Star Wars theme for a title bout against Ernie Shavers in 1977. Talk about coming full circle.
No,
hey, listen,
Pat, can I guarantee you something? I'm not bragging about this. I'm a better source than Google.
Ultra white collar boxing out of the UK is the one who wrote this.
Right. So
that's fine, Pags. I can guarantee you my credentials are superior to the guy writing it and my knowledge as well. So don't take that as fact.
But I find that when I find an answer, and we're talking about Ernie Shavers in the beginning and how his fight and now how this all ties in together, I think that's apropos.
Right, Jack.
First off,
Why don't
the
you
fact that
do
this
it
is
like
even a
that?
debate question is so ridiculous to me because, of course, nobody in the locker room is your age, Jack. So nobody
Right.
cares. You know
You
what I
got
mean? Except the
coaches in there.
managers, some managers. So I'm sure Buck Showalter stays in his office so he doesn't have to hear the music. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm sure
There you
that's
go.
how that works. So
And
I don't
Buck,
think anybody really cares. I know when I went to the practice at Eagles practice, they were blasting music because they want to simulate crowd noise.
That's okay on the field. I'm talking about the guys come into the locker room. They're relaxed in the beginning. They're getting ready. They don't want to hear music they don't want to hear. It bothers them then. I'm not talking about on the field.
You know, and I'm sure that here's what I believe. If you want a real answer to this, if the team is winning, they're not going to care what's on the radio. If the team is losing, somebody's getting angry about losing, they're going to they could be like, listen, I don't want to hear this crap, blah, blah, blah. And that's going to cause tensions because tensions are already high
Well,
because
let
they're
me
losing games.
let me
So I
mention
feel that you win,
disagree.
music is fine. You
Okay.
lose, music isn't fine. Just like they did it when in Moneyball, when he
Right.
comes in and he gets the
better
baseball
yet.
bat and breaks the radio.
Better yet, Mac. Remember the Yankees had lost, got swept to something late in the season. The pennant was on the line in 64. They lost to the White Sox, a big game late in the end. Phil Linz is playing a harmonica on the bus. And Yogi Berra's manager walked back and he smacked the harmonica out of his hand.
Yeah. I remember that. I wasn't there, but I do remember that.
So we do have a lot of comments here that I got to catch up on.
Yeah, Rick.
Major League Pickles is joining in
let's
here.
move on. We're never going to settle this debate.
Here we got Anya and
amazing.
Evanescence. We need to play that type of music. You know what? They used to play Phil Collins in the Air Tonight, and it was played across all of the stadiums. For the players, it was like one of those songs that get them like all fired up when you hear the do-doom, do-doom, with the drums.
Right.
That was a big deal. I remember them doing that a thing on that in HBO, in fact.
Yes.
So
I think it was the twins there, right, Pax? The twins that listened to the music there. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Anyways, let's go to question number 2. Should Ohtani be paid double, considering he is both a pitcher and a position player?
No, not at all. That's what he signed. That's what they got him for, so that he could perform at both positions and pitcher. So no, Ohtani should not get paid double. That's what he is, and that's it. He should be paid double.
I say one man, 2 players. That's what he is. He's 2 players. I mean, they use him primarily as a DH, but he's a position player as well.
Right field.
And with how Ohtani hits and he could play a position, he's worth about $20 million there as a position player. Okay, as a pitcher, pitchers like that are hard to come by. Someone might pay him like $30 million. As a position player, he might get $22 million. As a pitcher, he might get $28 million. That's a $50 million a year ball player for 2 players. If you play 2 players who gave you what Ohtani did, you might be paying $50 million. Why not pay just one man?
Here's the problem I have with that whole thought process.
Yankees should do that.
So there's two things that I could say about this. First off, he can't sign with 2 separate teams as a position player, one spot, then as a pitcher in another spot. Can't do that. Secondly, if that means in the way that you're talking about, if he gets hurt being a batter, gets hit with the pitch and has to go out, he still can't pitch then either. You know what I mean? So if he gets hit at the plate, and is out for 15 days, that same player can't pitch for those 15 days.
But if he doesn't get hurt, you got double the amount there. So
maybe that goes into consideration. I know that Babe Ruth didn't get paid 2 salaries.
Babe Ruth, when he was with the Yankees, he only pitched a handful of games, and he wasn't the same hitter that he was with the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, but they
But what happened?
also you when a position player, like when games get out of hand, position players go to the mound and pitch. They don't get any extra pay for that. And there's certain times when pitchers have to go out into the field. I remember there was Roy Oswalt had to go out into the field and play left field during a 19-inning game because we ran out of position players. I've seen times where pitchers had to go pinch hit or pinch run for a
Right.
number of different reasons. So
Okay,
there are a lot of different ways that they don't get paid any extra money when they do something that they're not supposed to be doing. He is supposed to be batting all the time and pitching every fifth day. That's what
let's
his role
say,
is to do, and that's what he deserves to do.
let's say, hypothetically for fun, Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler were free agents, and they left the Phillies at the end of the year. And you were prepared as Philly GM owner to offer $30 million to Harper, $20 million to Wheeler. I know, Wheeler's getting a little more, but I'm just giving a roundabout figure, $50 million. You lose both guys. And I'm Ohtani. I'm coming as agent, and I point. I'll do what Wheeler does, and I'll do what Harper does. Give me the same money, and I will fill in both slots for them, which he very well might do. I mean, Harper's probably a shade better as a hitter, but Ohtani's probably maybe a tiny bit better as a pitcher. Okay? Debatable. Ohtani has a little more upside, I think, but that's debate.
Harper doesn't pitch, Jack. So,
No, but Ohtani could provide the hitting that
Yeah,
Harper
but
does
see,
for the
but
most
see, the
part.
problem that you run to with that is that Harper also plays right field, so he can't play right
Ohtani
field
can't
while he's
play a
pitching. And
No, not while he's pitching, but he's also going to be better than any DH you would put in the pitcher's slot. Normally, you put in a DH to hit for the pitcher. You got Ohtani in there. Let your pitcher hit for you. It's better than any DH you have on the bench.
so,
Okay?
but there are times when
Wait, guys, 1 second. Can't you DH for someone else who's not a pitcher? Does it only have to be for a pitcher? I never gave that any thought. I should know the answer to that. I'm suffering a brain freeze on that. We always see DHs for the pitcher because pitchers traditionally, aren't hitters. But if you have a weak hitting second baseman, why can't the pitcher should be allowed to hit as a position player?
you know what? I'm going to look up that.
I don't know why
right
I
now.
never gave. Wow, you've been around the world, and I never gave that any thought. Never.
Can DH, and I think it is possible. No, it says the designated
has to
hitter
be a
is a
pitcher.
player who does not play a position in the field.
Position, right? Okay. Forget it. I suffered a brain freeze for the moment. On
Because
that.
there are certain times. There was a certain time this year where the Phillies did a double switch, and the pitcher wound up in the lineup because of it. So there's times when that designated hitter spot, still comes into play. I'm not exactly sure how the rule is stated. The actual rule that comes up is as stated in Rule 5.11. So I don't know that rule.
But listen, Pags.
The DH may only be used for the pitcher and not any other position player. That's the rule.
Guys, let's get back to the debate questions, right? Let's do the next one that's on the list.
All right, so to answer that question, no, Ohtani should not get paid twice.
Okay.
I say
Should the Mets have retired Willie Mays' number?
That's easy. Of course they should. I mean, he is one of the greatest baseball players of all time, bar none. So of course they should retire his number. I don't know if the Giants have. I think they have.
Giants
right?
have.
Yeah.
Giants have, Mac.
So,
Mets had no. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no question in my mind that the Mets should retire one of the greatest baseball players in the history of baseball. No doubt.
Right. Listen, the Mets should retire Duke Snyder's number. He played for them a little while. They should retire, whoever played. Willie Mays played for the Mets a year and a half.
Yeah.
He wasn't a great Met. Yeah, no. What the heck are the Mets doing retiring Willie Mays' number? It's up to the Giants. The Giants did it. Okay? That's the way it should be. A year and a half with the Mets, and you're retiring his number. They didn't win a World Series with Willie Mays. They came close, lost in 7 games. He was at the tail end of his career. And the Mets made the same mistake retiring Willie Mays' number as they did when they opened Citi Field. They went big on the Brooklyn Dodgers history and not on their own. And I was guilty. I supported that at the time, in all fairness. I wanted them to invoke memories of the Brooklyn Dodgers. It turned out to be a mistake, and I admit I was wrong. But but I learned my lesson here. Willie, as great as the Say Hey Kid was, he was a Met for a year and a half. Give me a break.
I remember him, Jack. I remember him even stumbling into the batter's box, almost fall down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, stumbling in the outfield. But what does that have to? So that merits having a number retired.
Definitely,
Number should be retired by the biggest icon of that franchise, like a Stan the Man Musial with the Cardinals, a Ted Williams with the Red Sox. I mean, Willie Mays a year and a half with the Mets. No way. And I revere Willie Mays. Willie Mays is on my short list amongst the greatest players of all time. But he was a San Francisco Giant, a New York Giant before that. He was a New York Giant for something like 6 seasons, and the New York Met for like a year and a half. He was a New York guy for something like 7.5 years. But he was a New York Giant predominantly when he was here. And the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, gave him that honor of retiring his number. But what the heck are the Mets doing? I don't get it.
We should slow down just a little bit because we're blowing through this like crazy. Right?
Yeah, you keep telling us to get to the next question, man.
yeah. So you're the one that's kind of speeding us up. Obviously, we're debating on the fact that you are making us go fast. We're fine. We're fine.
Right.
Don't worry. We got plenty of questions to go through. I know that the producer over there on that side is telling us to slow down, but we're the ones that keep getting pushed off. We were still talking about music.
Next question. You know what, Mac?
Who's on the bounty right now? Oh my God!
Mac is kind of disgusted with some of your responses, Pax. So
because I got a big response in for this. I didn't even get to talk about this, and I'll be honest. I think retiring numbers has gotten very wishy-washy. It's like that's the problem that I have with this. It's like retiring numbers should be for Hall of Fame players or players that franchise throughout. Like, so there are certain people that I believe, like, when I think of a guy who really should have his number retired, number 20, Mike Schmidt for the Phillies. Absolutely should have his number retired. He's a Hall of Fame guy. He was the best player in that position forever. That being said, Steve Carlton should also had his number retired. When you start getting into Manny Trio, should he have his number retired? No, Manny Trio should not have his number retired. He was a nice player, but he wasn't anything great.
Pax, how many years did Carlton pitch for the Cardinals? How many did he pitch for the Phillies? To me, you retire a guy's number if he was basically with that team his whole career. Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that either because he stayed from 72 to 85. You know what I mean? He had 13 years with us.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's a long time. I think he had 5-6 years with St. Louis. So he had the crux of his good years as a Philly, and it wasn't his fault. That was before free agency. So it wasn't his fault that he got traded.
Right. Like let's say Aaron Judge plays out his option, which he probably will. I feel at least. I hope I'm wrong. And goes to another team and it isn't a Yankee again. I don't want him to be in Monument Park someday, with his plaque out there. Because I would have felt he left the Yankees during the prime of his career. He went elsewhere, which is his right, which I'm supportive of that. But I also want to see guys who've basically been career Yankees for the most part, who had their major glory with the Yankees.
I know, and Paul O'Neill retiring his number is just plain ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
No way. So,
And that's why you got to have guys that play with the number 67. Nobody ever wants to play with the number 67 in baseball, but the Yankees are going to have guys that are going to have to play with that number because it's only going to be one of the 10 numbers left to play with. Because they're retiring everybody's number.
Me and Linda
I
were
don't
talking.
like to say, guys, I'm fine with virtually no numbers being retired. Put the player in the Team Hall of Fame, put him in Monument Park, put him in the Ring of Honor. That's what you do. Certain iconic players, you make a little bit of an exception for. Like, I could understand Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, but where do you stop? You get Berra, you have Jeter, you have Rivera with the Yankees. I mean, it starts piling up, but most teams don't have that history. With the Phillies, absolutely Mike Schmidt, without a question. He stands out as, to me, the most iconic play in Philly history. Steve Carlton, I'm not sure about retiring the number. Put him in the Team Hall of Fame. Put him on the Ring of Honor. I'm not quite sure. Even Albert Pujols with the Cardinals, he went elsewhere for 10 years during his career. So I'm not sure. Stan Musial, absolutely yes.
Yeah, well, Pete Rose doesn't have his number retired anywhere, but that's also because, and I think, like I said, first off, I don't think he was with the Phillies long enough to have it retired, although he was integral in getting them their first championship. I don't think that he deserves to have his number retired on that. It's the same way, but Larry Boa has meant a lot to this franchise. I don't think that his number should be retired.
No, definitely not.
Those are definitely thoughts that I have that are real, that I feel that they don't deserve that spot. I agree. The names that you mentioned, when you're talking about the Yankees, and the Yankees have had so many good players over such a long time, that you really have to start to make it. You have to start to tier them. And you're right. Paul O'Neill should not deserve to get his number retired. Derek Jeter, I believe, does deserve to get his number retired. So, when you start thinking
Jeter's a
about
no-brainer. Come on, what do you mean you believe? I mean, Jeter.
Well, no, I'm saying that as his number should be retired as a Yankee.
Right.
That I'm only talking about. I'm talking not as a Yankee fan. I'm just talking about that. Now, should Reggie Jackson have his number retired? Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you on that.
Jackson played with the Yankees 5 years, and he's in Monument Park at Yankee Stadium. The plaque, that's the equivalent of a Team Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, you have a player like Roy White who played 15 years compared to Jackson's 5. Yankees never had a day for him, anything. Greg Nettles, who I could argue was a greater Yankee overall than Reggie Jackson, played longer for them. Nothing in Monument Park for him. Okay, one of the great defensive third basemen in baseball history.
I was just going to say that. I guess the only one that could compare to him would probably be Frank Robinson, right?
Oh, you're Brooks Robinson.
Right. Robinson.
So, but there again, so let's talk about guys who could possibly have their number retired in 2 spots. Barry Bonds.
Well, Bonds because of the steroid controversy.
All right, then Griffey Jr.
Griffey Jr. Well, Griffey Jr. That's a question mark. Who would retire his number?
Seattle.
He went to Cincinnati, though. Yeah. I wouldn't blame the franchise. He decided he was going to leave us during the prime of his career. Why am I honoring him?
Okay, I agree with that thought process, but the question does get put out there that he could have, he could be considered good enough for both franchises to have had his number retired at both franchises.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that great with Cincinnati, but that's another question. Occasionally you get a player who's great with 2 teams and you could retire, but I can't see it. Even Roger Clemens, if he didn't have any controversy around him, he left the Red Sox. Bottom line, the Red Sox did put Clemens in their Team Hall of Fame. Okay, so, and he's worthy of it. But the bottom line is, of his 7 Cy Young Awards, which is crazy, that's an off-the-charts accomplishment. That's insane. Cy Young Awards. He got 2 at Toronto. It was only 2 years there. I think he got 1 with Houston, and I think 2 with the Red Sox, 2 with the Yankees. I'm not sure how the 7 break up, but he did it with multiple teams.
Yeah, the A's definitely, without a doubt. I mean, when I think of Ricky Henderson, I think of him as an A.
And Reggie Jackson,
But
Reggie Jackson too, Pags. He was with the A's a long time too, and a great player.
Was Reggie Jackson with the A's? I think of him as an angel.
Yeah,
but I think of him as an angel mostly because of that movie.
No, he
The
was
Naked Gun.
no. He was 3 world championship teams with the A's, 72, 73, 74. Most of his career was played with the A's, like sum total. It just depends on the particular player. Like a George Brett was a Kansas City Royal his whole career. Those are the type of numbers you retire. A guy who's with the team his whole career. Oh, Nolan Ryan. I'm glad Chris mentions the name Nolan Ryan. Let the Mets retire his number. Nolan Ryan was a member of the 1969 Miracle Mets. He pitched in the World Series, Game 3.
Yes.
So let's retire Nolan Ryan's number. Wasn't he supposedly in one of the all-time great pitchers? Not one of the all-time best, but he pitched a bunch of no-hitters.
Still, 7 no-hitters. He's got the most no-hitters of any pitcher, and he pitched great for the Mets, Houston Astros, and the Texas Rangers.
But the point I'm making, guys, if the Mets are going to retire Willie Mays' number, which they absolutely shouldn't have done, retire Nolan Ryan's while you're at it. Wasn't he on the Mets?
Yep.
And he accomplished more with the Mets than Mays did. But I'm against this retiring of numbers. I'm sick of it. We all love Paul O'Neill, but we harken back to him. Recently the Yankees retired his number. Good.
Well, and that's really where I feel that the line should have been drawn on the other side of him. He should not have had his night. Like, yes, a good player could be in that Ring of Honor, but just because you're in the Ring of Honor doesn't mean that you should have your number retired.
Well, guys, how about Johnny Damon and Wade Boggs? I mean,
who are you with Johnny Damon? But who are you going to retire his number? He played a few years with the Yankees, a championship team, mostly with the Red Sox. But he left the Red Sox. You just can't. You're not going to retire Johnny Damon number. No. Bernie Williams was put in Monument Park, but you're not going to retire his number.
Right. And same thing. Like he's got Cal Ripken Jr. down here. Cal Ripken Jr. obviously should get his number retired with the O's. Yeah, with the Orioles. But that's it. I don't know if he even played for another team, but that's.
What do you do with a great pitcher? If I'm not mistaken, Jim Palmer, didn't he pitch his career for the Orioles? A great pitcher, Hall of Famer.
Unbelievable pitcher, Jack.
Yeah. So maybe, do you retire Jim Palmer's number because how great he was? Frank Robinson, a great Baltimore Oriole, but he did do great things with the Reds before then. But what do you do with him in that case? Brooks Robinson, don't retire any of these numbers just about. Just retire 2 numbers, Babe Ruth and Jackie Robinson, and just leave it alone after that and just honor them in a bigger way.
Maybe Carlos brings up David Stewart with the A's or Toronto, right?
Yeah, and then Randy Johnson, I guess you could go with both the Diamondbacks, as he played for the Diamondbacks and the
Mariners
and the
Diamondbacks.
Mariners.
Then he went to the Yankees, and
and I think the only thing that retired on him is that bird. That bird is no longer playing any games anymore.
That's got to give you extra points. It does.
Yes, yeah.
Roberto Clemente, Pirates retire a number like his. I can understand. Yes. No, yeah.
How about Willie Stargell?
No, Clemente kind of transcended things. I know what you're saying. You're making a great point, Pags. It's hard to argue against what you're saying. But what's the stopping point?
That's exactly where it comes in. That's the hard part about that. Where does it stop? I mean, realistically, with all the fanfare that they should be getting, the Mets should retire Bobby Bonilla's number.
Ernie Banks.
Everybody knows exactly what Bobby Bonilla Day is. That is worldwide now. They know all across the world what Bobby Bonilla Day is. So, I mean, that constitutes more than half of the players that have their numbers retired in
what
general.
I want to see Bobby Bonilla do, if I'm Steve Cohen and I can make a little money off this on the side, what I do with Bobby Bonilla, I restructure his current deal where they owe him each season, where he takes a little less the next few years and then backloads it additional years to just keep it going forever, you know.
Right.
And have fun with it. You know, Steve Cohen, maybe I'll pay a little more, but figuring we could have fun and market this and I could get my money back a certain way, and it's kind of win-win. And I'm sure Bobby Bonilla enjoys being kept in the limelight this way.
Well, isn't there was something, it was supposed to end in 26, but now that they said that there was some type of clause in this that allows it to go to like 2035.
You know what?
They have to pay this to 2035.
The Orioles are paying Bobby Bonilla money too on a deferred contract on the side.
Hey, you know what? I mean, God bless Bobby Bonilla.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes. We got to hire him, guys. We got to hire him to watch over our finances.
Hey, listen, I you know, and I'm sure he's, you know, I'm surprised he doesn't have something with J.G. Wentworth. You know what I mean? If you've got, you know, and you need cash now, call J.G. Wentworth.
Yes. You know, deferred contracts, we hear, well, the value of a contract. If it's deferred, it's not as much money. But the way these guys blow money, if I'm an agent, I want to get that player a lifetime contract. He gets maybe less value now, but I know he can't blow the money later because they're going to have to pay this guy till he's like age 75, 80.
Why didn't he play an old timers day? I think because, you know, he's still getting paid as a normal player. You know, he's getting paid. He's still on the roster. They can't trade him.
And
that'd be interesting if they could.
Outstanding participation from our viewers today. This is one of the most that they've chimed in our history. So thanks to you guys.
Right. And Mark McGuire, again, he's somebody who could have been with the A's and with St. Louis over there. So
about him, what about them? Him and Kirk Gibson, didn't they almost come to blows? I mean, when they were coaching the other team, I seem to remember that. I mean, wow! Talk about two big guys going at it.
Mark McGuire and Kirk Gibson.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would have been a good celebrity boxing match to watch.
It would have been.
So listen, we've hit our halfway point. Let's go to a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with our very spirited discussions today on music and retired numbers and all these other things. So let's we'll keep this going as we come back right after these commercial messages.
Stick with us, guys.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, isn't he?
And welcome back to the Mac and Jack Saturday debate show, where we talk about everything from Serena Williams to retired numbers to music. We let you know what music you can and can't listen to in the locker rooms. So lots of fun today. Lots of fun today. Let's get right back to the questions, as these debate questions. And who said that these debate questions aren't very spirited? Let's keep it going.
Mac wants to move it along. He just wants you to be aware.
I don't know. I know that he's racing us through this. Thank God that the producer over there calmed everybody down over there.
I mean, Mac believed when he played football in the quick huddle, the hurry up offense. He wants to keep the offense moving.
Right, exactly.
Here we go. Let's switch to the NFL. Who is under more pressure to perform well on opening day? Baker Mayfield versus the Browns, Russell Wilson versus the Seahawks.
Go ahead, Jack.
Well, they're both going against their former teams. So there's a lot of internal pressure. Even though it's the first game of the year, you always want to validate yourself as a professional, okay? Russell Wilson obviously had a Hall of Fame career with the Seahawks, okay? He's going to the Hall of Fame based on what he did as a Seahawk. No matter what he does as a Bronco, he'll ultimately get into the Hall of Fame.
Whoa, that's a whole different debate question. You just brought up because I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Come on,
wholeheartedly.
Come on, Pags. You know it's true.
That's not true yet. I think that he's still got more. He's still got to show more. He can't just. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. If his career ended today, he's not in the Hall of Fame.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt he going right now.
No, absolutely not.
In my mind. None at all. I mean, he was the main guy at Seattle. He looked like Fran Tarkenton out there sometimes, for God's sakes. And now moving on to Denver, Peyton Manning did with a weak arm. Russell Wilson's going to outdo Peyton Manning, no questions asked.
I'm so glad that you're saying this, because I already have it. I already have it written down. There's videos out there that I said that Denver is not going to do so good this year, and that the game is somewhat past Russell Wilson by.
Based on what he did at Seattle, okay? Russell Wilson isn't quite on the same level as a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, and Aaron Rodgers. We're not saying that, but those are super Hall of Famers. You don't have to.
All right. How about Dan Marino? Is that a super Hall of Famer too?
No, Dan Marino's a super Hall of Famer. Yeah, but he's good enough to get into the Hall of Fame. Like we were talking baseball before. There's Gehrig, DiMaggio, Ruth, Mantle. And then you have lesser guys who get into the Hall of Fame. They're still really good. Okay, like a guy like you could push for Keith Hernandez, for example. But that's another story in itself. But getting back with football here. Okay.
So I actually I'll put. Here's where I put Russell Wilson. I put Russell Wilson on the same plane right now as Randall Cunningham. I feel that Randall
accomplished more.
Who?
Russell Wilson has accomplished.
He's won one chip.
More.
He's won one chip. You know, I think Randall Cunningham.
Wait.
I think Randall Cunningham is what created was the initial guy who started how the quarterback position is looked at now.
Doug Williams. Doug Williams in the Super Bowl had that unbelievable second half. I think they put up 42 points. He was the one that started the way the quarterback position should be played.
I disagree with that. I mean, first off, Doug Williams, they scored 42 points, but didn't Riggins run for like 140 yards and 3 touchdowns in that half? Most of those points came from Riggins.
It was one of the other backs. But listen, the thing is, let me get to the point, okay, that of the question itself, who's under more pressure to perform well, okay? Most people would think Baker Mayfield because Russell Wilson has that job at Denver locked up the whole year no matter what. They're not replacing Russell Wilson. They just signed Russell Wilson to a 5-year extension, meaning he's supposed to be the quarterback the next 7 years of Seattle. But the $5 million extension, they signed him to $165 million is guaranteed, meaning $33 million a year. So they're all in on Russell Wilson no matter what. Carolina is hoping Baker Mayfield is their answer. But Baker Mayfield, they haven't made nearly the commitment. Now, Baker Mayfield, I'm sure, is putting more pressure on himself because his exit from Cleveland was a lot more personal to him than Russell Wilson's was from Seattle, because Russell Wilson didn't demand a trade from Seattle, but he said, hey, guys, if you want to trade me, I'm good with it. I won't argue with you. I won't hold it back. And the Seahawk organization and Russell Wilson had a mutual parting of the ways, and it didn't seem like there was any bitterness on both sides, okay? I mean, I'm not saying it was warm and fuzzy, but I don't think there was any bitterness there, any really seriously hurt feelings. But Baker Mayfield left with the bitterest of feelings, Cleveland. And the organization of Cleveland has no love for Baker Mayfield.
And Carlos is a huge supporter of Wilson. Check out that link he told you about.
Okay, so you're cutting me off because Carlos sent in a comment. I'm being cut off.
No, I didn't cut you off. I just put it up there. He's going ahead and talking. I'm listening to what you got to say. So here's the problem I have. With what it is you're saying.
Let me finish my sentence. I still didn't finish the darn sentence.
But you're talking forever. I'm falling asleep over here trying to get through what you're saying.
Say now, Carlos cuts me off. You cut me off.
What?
I don't remember what I was going to say, but I'll just take the answer. Russell Wilson is under more pressure. He's got to validate the big contract, and Denver has to set a tone for the season. And if Russell Wilson bombs out and Denver loses badly, the fan base is going to take it a lot harder than they would at Carolina, because a little less is expected at Carolina franchise than the Denver Bronco franchise. So Russell Wilson is under more pressure than Baker Mayfield to actually perform against his old team on opening game.
Do you agree with that, Pags?
So I do. I think Seattle stinks out loud, and if Russell Wilson loses against Seattle, there's going to be big question marks. And I think that first off, I don't think Seattle wins at all. That's the problem. So I don't think Seattle is even a fight for Denver in general, because I think that they're tanking this year. That being said, if by chance Seattle was to put it all together and win this game against Denver, different than Carolina losing to Cleveland, I think that Cleveland actually has a lot of other pieces in place that they could go ahead and win this game against Carolina.
Great defense.
But I think that there's no chance that Seattle wins this game. So if they lose that game, that could really spawn a whole big thought process moving forward with Russell Wilson. And it could set the tone for a season, because there's no way that Denver should lose. No way in hell in any scenario. You put it 100 versus 100 times. There's not one time that I could see Seattle winning this game. So if Seattle does win this game, if this is the anomaly game, that could set a tone for Russell Wilson this year in general. And that's why I feel it's more important that Russell Wilson win this game than Baker Mayfield. They're both important. I understand how Baker wants to win this game because he wants to get back at his franchise for doing what they did. And I can appreciate that. And you could use that as a big chip on his shoulder. Seattle got rid of Russell Wilson. They asked him to go and they traded him to Denver. So it's a whole different scenario over there than it was over here.
I don't necessarily agree with that, Pags. I think Russell Wilson, he did ask to leave, but Baker Mayfield demanded to go. I mean, they had some really, really sharp words for each other on the way out. Baker got no support from his team whatsoever, going to Carolina. So I don't think it's comparable at all, Pags.
But Pags makes a great point. Okay, the Cleveland Carolina game is, for the most part, going to be looked at as a pick'em game that any team can win. Denver is looked at as a far superior team to Seattle. Seattle's looked at as arguably the worst team in the NFL, or one of them. And if Denver can't beat a Seattle Seahawks team on opening day, wow, what's that going to say for them going forward on the season? Like, Baker Mayfield could play Cleveland and he could lose 17-14. Okay, he's disappointed he lost. It's a long season. Who's even going to remember that game later on? But if Denver should lose to a team as weak as Seattle, I mean, where are they going to get their wins from? That should be one of the few gimmies they have. There are no gimmies, I understand, in the NFL, but this comes as close to being one as you can have on opening day. And the Denver fan base is so excited about Russell Wilson, like what the future is. They're thinking they can make a Super Bowl run. And they lose to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. Oh.
I tell you, and that would set an ugly thing in motion. Now, again, let's be for real. This is game number one. We've already spoken about how there are anomalies that happen in the first couple of weeks of games. So I understand that there are certain times when, a team, one team just happens to win because all the bounces go right, and that you just, for one reason or another, it's just for that one team that day. So it's possible that Seattle could win that game. Although, like I said, at 100 out of 100 times, I'm going to take Denver to win that game. That all being said, if Geno Smith outduels Russell Wilson at any time, let's say DK Metcalf goes off for 3 touchdowns and they win this game 21-20, which is, probably the only realistic score that I could see how Seattle would even win that game, just because they get, they're kicking a whole bunch of field goals rather than scoring touchdowns in Denver. That would start something in motion that could possibly last all season long. And I'm going out of my way to say that I think that the AFC West is overrated. I think that, I know that everybody loves to say, oh, I'm wrong about this, but I'm telling you, the AFC West is overrated in total. And I think that they're not going to be as good as everybody thinks they are.
I think that's crazy as heck, Pags. There's no way the AFC West is overrated. That's like saying the NFC West
The
is overrated.
Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I'm saying that there's not going to be any one of those teams are going to win 12 games. Not one of those teams will win 12 games.
Well, that's possible because they'll be playing against each other and knocking each other off. That's a possibility.
Yeah, but that's only 6 of the games. There's 17. That means 11 other games that they could play.
Question, Mac. A question for Mac. Who do you think is going to have a bigger year at quarterback since when Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield or Carson Wentz? Will they both be starters for their team at the end of the year, assuming they don't get injured?
I would say Baker, of course. I mean, Carson.
Baker will have a bigger year than Carson.
Carson has problems in the clubhouse too. He doesn't know how to talk to players, and definitely. There's no doubt.
Maybe because he's playing his music there, Carson. Maybe he should cool it, and ask the other guys what they liked for him to play.
Didn't we already do this and go through this already, Pags? I think. Right?
Yeah, we did this a couple of weeks ago, and like I said, it's if I had to answer that question, I also would agree that Baker Mayfield will have the better year than Carson Wentz.
Okay, I didn't realize we asked. I thought we asked Hurts or Wentz. Okay. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, no. You asked for Baker Mayfield or Wentz. When you're asking Hurts or Wentz, I don't think it's any question Hurts is going to have.
But I will say this: the Russell Wilson Baker Mayfield thing. Even though I feel Russell Wilson is the one under more pressure, as a fan, strictly as a fan, you give me the choice of the 2 games to watch. I think there's more human drama in the Panther game with Baker Mayfield against the Browns. I'm more anxious to see him perform in that game than Russell Wilson against Seattle because it's so personal. It seems.
And right there, there's a lot of stars there on Cleveland. Also, you got Chubbs, you've got the defense of the Browns.
Myles Garrett, yeah.
I mean, listen, that's worth watching anyway. So.
If you think about it in that regards, as we're putting a lot of stock on just the quarterbacks. If you take the quarterbacks out of the mix and just put teams in general, do you think the Bills have a tremendous amount of pressure on them to win this first game against the Rams?
I think the Bills' pressure has to do with the whole season. I don't think it's a big deal if the Bills lose 20-17 to the Rams. I think they don't even blink. They go on to the next week. It's a long season. They adjust. They learn by their mistakes. Sometimes we read too much into the psychology of a team. I remember the Washington Redskins when we talk about in the 80s, they win the Super Bowl, okay? And the next season they play the Cowboys the first game of the season. They're leading 30-3. In the second half, and they lose 31-30 the first game of the season. You think mentally that is going to hurt. But it was the Redskins that, didn't blink. They went on, they trounced the Cowboys in the 2 meetings later on, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs, and they went back to the Super Bowl, the Redskins, despite suffering the devastation of blowing a 27-point lead in the first game of the year. So that didn't set the trend for the season. The last year, the Packers got blown out by the Saints opening game, and Matt LaFleur, the Packer coach, says, he's really embarrassed. And Aaron Rodgers says, I'm not embarrassed. I mean, it's 1 game, and he refused to say it was embarrassing. The Packers had the best regular season record in the NFL, and they got blown out week 1. But I think the Bills for the season, guys, this is it. At the very least, they better get to the Super Bowl, really win it. The Bills have never won a Super Bowl. This is it, because every year the Bills have been on the doorstep, and I get the feeling if they don't get it done this year, their window is going to start gradually closing.
Yeah, but that gradual close is going to take 3 to 4 years. So I think that right now, the Bills are prime with the way that they're going to lose another 4 Super Bowls in a row.
No, maybe that window started closing a year ago, Pags. Because last year could have maybe been there. Yeah, maybe it's kind of a little teeny bit. They still maybe have enough left to get it done. I mean, we don't know, but look, I picked last year. I have to be honest. When I make a bad pick, I can't just mention my good prediction. I thought Cleveland was going to go to the Super Bowl last year, and everything went wrong. But the point is, where are they this year? How many people consider them a serious Super Bowl contender this year? Not many, and it's only 1 year later. And then you take the Rams, who I didn't pick to go to the Super Bowl last year. But the year before that, I picked them because I got tired of thinking the Rams could go to the Super Bowl. And finally, you kind of throw in the towel with them. Is it that way with the Bills now? The Bills, what the Rams were before that, is this their time? And what about the Chiefs? Is their window closing? That's very interesting.
I don't think so, Jack. I think they're still got enough talent, enough of everything to stay up near, to be at the top of the division and to get to that Super Bowl. So
Jets never even opened the window. They haven't even opened the window an inch.
Yeah, exactly. They've got it barricaded closed. You know, they
no,
got
no. Now it's the window's no longer boarded up. At least with the Jets, It's not boarded up. We got to start opening it, but it's not boarded up. We took the boards off, and we're ready to make a little bit of a move.
Yeah, they still got to open up the shutters, though. The boards might be off, but the shutters are still closed because they think that Zach is with one of his mom's friends. So they don't want to.
What the heck are you talking about?
Oh, trust me, I know that Jack knows what I'm talking about. That Zach Wilson loves his mom's friends a little too much. So here we go. Let's move on a little bit. Pressure to get to the year. Which New York team, the Yankees or the Mets?
Go ahead, Jack.
Let's go with Mac first.
What's the sentence? Which New York team, the Yankees or the Mets? What?
Good to get to the World Series. Who's under more pressure to get to the World Series?
Oh,
Yankees or Mets?
That's
yes,
an
I did.
One. Easy one. Not even close. The Yankees, without question. I mean, it's such a warm feeling the Met fans have for the organization. And keep in mind, the Mets won in the playoffs last year. All the Mets have to do is make a playoff run. If they are going to go to the playoffs, barring a ridiculous collapse, which isn't going to happen, okay? So the Mets are going to go in the playoffs. And if they win one round in the playoffs, and let's say the Mets lose in the National League Championship Series, everyone will be happy. Even their owner, Steve Cohen, they'll be satisfied. They'll say, look, we're getting closer to our goal. We're going to do this or that. The fans love the move Steve Cohen is making. There's no discontent with the ownership. Steve Cohen is as popular with Met fans as any of their players are. The Met fans like all their players, okay, and everything. And everyone is happy, and it's a good mood. And they're making a run, and the Mets have done something they haven't done in a long time. They're creating a lot of interest, okay? The Yankees, it's either get to the World Series bare minimum, and that won't even be good enough for Yankee fans. They have to win it. Either get to the World Series or fans won't be happy. So the Yankees could straighten out. They're playing very poorly recently. They could go to the American League Championship Series, but if they lose that, people are going to say, well, we haven't got one since 2009. Yankee fans have higher expectations at this moment, much higher than the Mets, and it's not a happy time really in the Bronx because the Yankees, if they win it, it'll be more of a relief. If the Mets win it.
Look, every team starting here has high expectations to go to the World Series. It's not just the Yankees. The Yankees, of course, have that history. What is 27 World Championships that they've been to the World Series and won it. The Mets are. I mean, look, the Mets have a good history too. I mean, they went 86. The team maybe partied a little too much. But they went in 86.
They went 36 years ago, and you're saying, "Oh, you make it like we're 36 years ago." They won
talking about the Jets and Mamie in '69, Jack, and that's 100 years ago. So why not talk about that? So I'm saying right now, the Yankees, they will go to the World Series. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't know why we're questioning that. I mean,
no doubt in your mind.
Again, anybody who wants to put any money on that, along with any Giants, if you want to parlay that with the Giants making it to the Super Bowl, let me know. I'm collecting all bets on those. Yankees to the World Series, Giants to the Super Bowl. I'm collecting all that money because really, again, it's better in my pocket than in yours.
I'd like you to make a bet with Mac, and you give him 2-to-1 odds packs. You could give him any 6 teams you want in the NFL. If one of them makes the Super Bowl, Mac wins the bet. If none of them make it, you win the bet. You got to give him a pick 6.
That's a good deal.
I tell you what, I'd give him 4 picks.
Well, come on.
There's 32 teams. That's
scared of the Jets. That's why you think the Jets might surprise you. That's why you don't want to give 6.
What do you mean, the Jets? Well, I ain't worried about the Jets either. Any New York team getting to a championship. So here, since I didn't get a chance to talk about this, I agree with you. If you go back to the beginning of the season, to the very beginning, before we played Game 1, there was no expectation on the Yankees. It was the way that they came out of the gate and the way that they played in the first half of the season, which is what brought on the expectations. Now, I guess because they're from New York, all the expectations are there that they have to make the World Series. I don't think this team was ever good enough to make the World Series this year. And the fact that now that they have this unwanted pressure to make the World Series, I think the only person that's feeling the pressure over there in New York is Aaron Boone, because I don't think he's going to be the manager, and it's short of winning
they
a World
love him. Brian Cashman loves him. That's not an issue. It's the fans and the publicity. It wears on you, though. That's the problem. Cashman likes him a lot.
But I think, and I agree with you the same way. The Mets did not make the playoffs last year. I think if they were to get into the playoffs and make it to the NL Championship game, that would satisfy the Mets fan base.
Pax, every team that gets that far has an expectation, and they shouldn't be playing baseball or any sport. When you're there, this is your time to cash in. You're not going to wait years and whatever to get back there. You're there now. Now's the time to do it. So if they don't do it, they're just as bad as the Yankees. They're just as bad as the Yankees.
Who's under more pressure to get to the World Series? It's easy to say every team is under pressure. Which franchise is under more pressure from their fan base? Put it that way, from their fan base.
I would think that the Yankees are under more pressure. I think that the Mets fans would love to go to the World Series, but will accept. I think with the way that they've played this year, if by chance the Mets lose in the first round of the playoffs that they play in, not the wild card, because I doubt that they're going to get to the wild card. I think they're going to win the division. So if they were to play the Braves and lose to the Braves in that first series, then I think that Mets fans would be upset. But if they go to the championship series, I think Mets fans will be okay. If they have a tough series with the Dodgers and they lose that series, I think that Mets fans would be excited for the future. That's how they would move forward. That they'd be very excited to the future.
And who's the most contributor to the Mets winning right now? We'd have to say Lindor, Jack. We'd have to say Lindor is probably the biggest contributor to the Mets because he's playing a great shortstop. He's swinging the bat really well. And, I know you don't like the contract, but I guess it was worth it, Jack.
The contract is ridiculous. Of course it's a 10-year deal. He's not going to wash out the first year of a 10-year deal. The way it works, Mac, they're good for half the contract. He's going to be good the next few years. The last few years of the contract, the Mets won't know what to do with it.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
That happens. Look at everyone's history on the 10-year contract at that age. Just about everyone. Look at Pujols with the Angels. They give him his 10-year deal. He kind of flames out. Even it's going to happen with Mike Trout, but they had to sign him the additional years. Everyone who signs those long deals, they flame out at the last few years. Robinson Cano, his 10-year deal, he flamed out badly the last few years. But they're good the first few years. Lindor's been wonderful. Listen, I will say this. If Lindor hypothetically can lead the Mets to the World Series, a World Series victory this year, he's World Series MVP, and you think we couldn't have won this without Lindor, then you want to know something? I'm going to say even if he flames out, it was maybe worth it. You won a World Series. I'm going to acknowledge that. But anything short of that, we won't know till late on in the contract to see how he performs, and that's such a long ways off. I'm just saying the history of the 10-year deals are awful, unless you're Derek Jeter at age 25 to take it to age 35. Then it's okay. Listen, even Bryce Harper, we all know the last, 3-4 years of that contract, he's not nearly going to be the same player he was. It's just the way it is. I mean, they lose it. That's why the Yankees have difficulty with Aaron Judge. No one wants to give Aaron Judge a 10-year deal. That would be insane. He's not going to be good the last few years of that. He's going to be greatly diminished. But listen, I'll give you, like I said, Mac, I'll give you this. If the Mets win the World Series and Lindor is a major, major part of it, okay, maybe I got to throw in the towel because, nothing could substitute for a World Series win. You pay top dollar for it, so okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I again, I don't think, I don't know that Lindor is even the best player on that team right now. Obviously, I think that the pitching does it, and right now, Pete Alonso, as much as I don't like him as a player, is doing more than Lindor is.
Jeff McNeil too. Jeff McNeil. No, Lindor's been outstanding this year, unbalanced.
No, he's been a good player. He's been a good player. It's not like that he's, but so is the entire team. You know what I mean? The entire team has been playing pretty well.
So
I don't.
Nemo has been the spark plug. Yeah.
So I think that I find that that's going to be a really good series to watch, and really is probably the World Series, the Mets versus the Dodgers. I look at that as the real World Series, not necessarily the NL versus the AL. I think that those two teams are better than every other team.
We used to say that about Yankees and Boston, right? They were the two best teams in the league, and when they played, that really was the World Series. So.
Last night something noteworthy took place. The Yankees called up one of their shortstop studs, Oswaldo Peraza. Okay, he made his major league debut at bat with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and the Yankees down 9-0, some spot, no pressure, but struck out on 3 pitches. But what's interesting about Peraza, the Yankees have Anthony Volpe, who is a great shortstop prospect. So they're going to have to decide which guy to keep going forward unless they move one to second base. And then what happens with Gleyber Torres there, unless they move one of them to third place and move on from Josh Donaldson. So the thing is going, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Carlos doesn't get it either. It's a 10-year contract. Lindor's worth the money right at the moment. And even then, you wonder, is he really worth the money, even though I said he is at the moment. $31 million a year for this year. Isn't he more like Pags, a $23-24 million a year player? But let's say $31 million is worth it, but now you got to pay him for 9 more years after this one. Is he really going to produce in the same fashion? If he does, okay. But I just, it's inevitable he's going to slow down the way Robinson Cano did.
Can we put Chris's comment back up there for a second? Yeah.
They're going out fast, I think, instead of saying going.
It's not what we think, Chris. It's not what we think. It's not what the fans think. Brian Cashman loves Aaron Boone. Brian Cashman's contract is up. If the Yankees re-sign Brian Cashman, they're going to defer to him, Hal Steinbrenner. And Brian Cashman wants Boone to stay on as the manager because Boone works very well with Cashman, the front office. And is it really Aaron Boone's fault what's going on? I mean, what can he really do differently?
He has to have some of the blame, Jack, right? Yeah, I mean, not all the blame, but he has to have some of the blame.
Well, what can he do differently?
I mean, just sometimes when you have months like you do last month, you have to do some shaking up. You have to shake things up, and he never did anything. He just kept doing the same thing over
things
and
up. Adonais Chapman was their closer. He dropped him as the closer for Clay Holmes. Then Clay Holmes started pitching poorly after making the All-Star team. Then he went on the injured list. But the idea that he had the guts to remove Chapman as his closer. I mean, who are you going to? Donaldson hasn't hit all year, it seems, at third base. But he's had a good glove. But who else are you going to put at third? I mean, Aaron Hicks, he benched Aaron Hicks.
He could either move Torres or he could move over DJ. He could move them to third base, right?
Well, yeah, but Donaldson has a good glove there. And DJ LeMayo, he moves around. He's getting him in the lineup all the time. It's not easy. I mean, it's just Stanton then went on the injured list after he got, was doing great the first half of the season. It's the guy, trading Jordan Montgomery to the Cardinals. Who would have known Jordan Montgomery, since he's been with the Cardinals, has been one of the best pitchers in baseball. And they traded him for an outfielder, Hader, who just hasn't been in the lineup yet because he's been on the injured list. But when he gets in, he's supposed to be a great defensive, outfielder. We'll see how it all plays out. But you're right, Mac. If we give the manager credit, he's got to take blame too. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on to another state because I'm tired of talking about the Yankees. But then I look at the rest of the debate questions, and they're all New York centric, which really frustrates me in general because I could care less about New York in the total. But since we have Carlos here and he's got a lot to add into this, I'm going to go ahead. Let's go. Let's start with this one. Are the Knicks at fault for not pulling off the trade for Donovan Mitchell?
My answer is no. You could put a little blame on them in the sense that they thought the Jazz would come back to them at the end, and they thought they could milk this out to the very end and exhaust all possibilities with the Jazz. Now, we get reports of what the Knicks offered, okay? We get reports.
Yep.
And if this report is true, if the Knicks did offer this deal for Donovan Mitchell, what more could they have done? Reportedly, they offered R.J. Barrett before he signed the extension. R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, the biggest Knick crowd pleaser, and Mitch Robinson, who's great, off the boards. Those three plus 3 unprotected number 1 picks. Okay? For Mitchell, that's 6 good chips that they offered, especially Barrett. He's more than just a good chip. But Donovan Mitchell, what more are they supposed to do? I mean, and Utah thought they could get more because I call it the Rudy Gobert syndrome because Minnesota gave away so much for Gobert and Donovan Mitchell is marginally better. Utah thought, wow, we could get something at least of that value. Okay, and it's hard to do. But when you think of it in the way they did, because Toppin went number 1, Barrett's an impact player, Robinson is, good, but, and the 3 number 1s, but whatever. What more could they do? I mean, I'd say the Knicks did everything they could logically do within reason. I don't blame them.
I'd agree with that, Jack. I'd agree with that 100%. So.
I kind of agree with this statement that I think that nobody likes dealing with the Knicks. I think that the Knicks are unrealistic with the way that they do things. I think that they have been irrelevant as a franchise over the last 20 years. That they have not really done anything. From New Jersey, who then moves to Brooklyn and has got more drama following around them than you see on Days of Our Lives. That they own New York, as far as I'm concerned. And the Knicks are irrelevant, and that they have been irrelevant for too long of a time. I remember back in the day when the Knicks were worth something, when they were a good team, when you would put them in the mix with the Sixers and with Boston, and like that would be like you could even go as far as to say the Atlanta Hawks back then, when you had Dominique Wilkins, and Milwaukee Bucks back then when you had Sidney Moncrief and stuff like that. That was the last time the Knicks were relevant. I don't think the Knicks are relevant at all anymore.
Yeah, but listen, people forget, it's what have you done for me lately? The Knicks got Jalen Brunson. You know, he signed with the Knicks as a free agent. His dad's on the Knicks coaching staff. Okay, but the Mavericks wanted to re-sign Jalen Brunson. He had a really good year for them. And next to Luka, he was arguably the best player on the Maverick team, and the Knicks signed him. So it's what have you done for me lately? That's how fans think. Okay, you make it's like you sign a free agent early in the process, and then fans get restless. They, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And if you can't do anything next, they make it seem like you didn't do anything at all. Let's stop blaming James Dolan for everything.
Well,
maybe Dolan, maybe he's a jerk, like some people say. Maybe not. I'm not saying one way or the other. But James Dolan hasn't been dealing with, other teams, basically. His front office has been doing it. And we don't hear complaints about James Dolan handling the New York Rangers, meddling this and that. He's owner of the Rangers too, and the Rangers are doing fine. Players come sign with the Rangers. I don't want to hear the NBA players, and I give them credit for this. They want the ring. It's more than just about money. They want to win. They have this thing about the ring. Full credit to them. Okay?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
He does.
Chris he hires the wrong people.
He does.
Tom Thibodeau, that was a wrong hire. Come on. Tom Thibodeau's a highly respected coach. Listen, he tried to make
I think he's talking like Isaiah Thomas and the Lakers.
That was a bad hire. Yeah. Phil Jackson was a bad hire, in my view, a terrible hire. But Phil Jackson had such a great reputation as a winner that on the surface, James Dolan thought he was making a great hire. He paid Phil Jackson $12 million a year. He way overpaid him because he thought he was getting a guy who could turn the Knicks around.
And Carlos, okay? I told you about that G League anyway. The G League is nonsense. They got the college basketball is the number one place they recruit from, not the G League.
Well, no, but I understand what he's saying. Actually, the Sixers actually have done pretty well in the G League and getting back end of the bench, and that's really all it's good for. That's good for the back 5 players, the last 5 players of your bench going into the playoffs. That's what the G League is good for. You're not going to get top level talent. On occasion, you'll get like a Jeremy Lin that'll show up and be able to go crazy. But he is again the anomaly. He's not. It's not. Not the common. You're going to get in your G League. If you have a sub team, then you're going to be able to get back 4, back 5 guys that hopefully they can shoot when it comes to the game, the real game. That's the hard part about that. You're not going to get anybody who's going to make your starting roster out of a G League. So
you never know where you find. You never know where you find talent from. Like I think I told you guys about 3 weeks ago or something like that. I went to a few weeks ago. I went to Long Island Duck game in the Independent Baseball League. Now the Mets just called up someone who played for the Long Island Ducks. So you never know where who you're watching, where you're getting talent from.
Yeah, look at that. A combined 80 years since New York has had a title in Madison Square Garden.
It's all James Dolan's fault, completely.
Well, I don't know James Dolan, but if he's any relation to the owner of my living room at Dolan's Bar, then I have to give him a thumbs up.
Listen, Jerry Jones hasn't won a title since the Super Bowl, since the Rangers won the Stanley Cup in hockey. I think it was both in '94, their last.
Well, '96 was the last one that they won in Dallas.
Cowboys. Okay, so it's a little more recent. Okay.
But that's kind of it. And we'll go with the last question, even though it's another New York question. Did the Giants make a mistake cutting Blake Martinez?
Yes. The heart and soul of that defense, tackling machine, the man ran that. He was a captain. I mean, you just cut somebody that I mean, I know Phillips is a good acquirement for him, but you just cut somebody that has been there, the past 2 years, led that defense when they were really starting to come around under Judge. But I don't know why you cut Blake Martinez where you could have found another area. You could have. So I think it was a big mistake.
I think, you know what, I agree with you, Mac, but I think we're going to get a conclusive answer to see who picks Blake Martinez up, where he winds up. If he doesn't wind up anywhere, then we're going to have to retract what we said and say, no, the Giants didn't make a mistake. But some team is going to want him. Look, the Seattle Seahawks moved on from Bobby Wagner.
Right.
But guess who picked him up? The Rams, the Super Bowl champions. And he's going to be a big part of their defense, okay? So, yeah, Seattle made a mistake there, certainly the way they handled it. Bobby Wagner found it out on the news. They didn't even get the call directly. Shame on the Seahawk organization for that. But reportedly, Blake Martinez wasn't getting along with the coaching staff. Not that they were arguing, but he wasn't fitting into how they were doing things over there. And he was out last year, a good part of the year with his injury. But before that, he'd been the heart and soul of the defense. You mentioned Joe Judge. Joe Judge is now with the Patriots. I got to believe Joe Judge has had a talk with Bill Belichick saying, look, I had this guy with the Giants. He's the kind of guy we want on our team here. But I know Bill Belichick has his own way of doing things. He'll listen to Joe Judge, but whether he acts, that's another matter. But time is going to tell on the Blake Martinez thing whether the Giants made a mistake. My feeling is it's going to turn out to be so because I think he goes to another team, and he's a very nice contributor for them.
Well, and that's why I feel that he now falls into the category of where Howie Roseman likes to grab players. That he feels, if Howie Roseman likes him as a player, that he would do a 1-year deal with him and take advantage of the fact that he would want to get back at his old team, playing them twice a year, and it would bolster their linebacker core. Now, right now, the Eagles have nine defensive linemen and 7 or 8 linebackers. So there's a lot of players in the mix over there, and to be able to have to release one and put him on the practice squad or what have you would be tough. But I feel that really does fall into Howie Roseman's realm. Now, I did see here that somebody's saying that he may go to the Titans. I guess he could go just about anywhere he wants to go, depending on who's going to pay him. You know what I mean? That's really what it's going to come down to. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles were to pick him up as a 1-year player in a show-me contract so that they can get him back on the field as quickly as possible and give a show. And then at that point, if he doesn't work out in the first 3 to 4 weeks, you can cut him. You know what I mean? But I think that makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, especially when you have somebody in division, who's very knowledgeable about that other team. And somebody that you're going to play here within the first couple of weeks, that would be something worthwhile.
I got to tell you guys what I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of this. And I hope it doesn't backfire. Of all the players who didn't make the 53-man roster of all the teams, the Jets had the most players picked up by other teams. 7 of their players were picked up were picked up by other teams. That's the most in the NFL. So when Robert Saleh, the head coach, and Joe Douglas was talking about all the depth on the Jet team, they weren't lying. Think of that. 7 guys they cut went elsewhere, more than any other team. So that bodes well, I think, for the Jets taking a step upward this year. But
that tells me a couple of things, though. That tells me that all they have is depth. They don't really have anybody who's able to elevate themselves to that starting position, that everybody is about the same. And it's good that if you want to have parity throughout your team, but the problem becomes is that you need those guys to excel. You need the one guy to elevate everybody else. And I don't think the Jets have that. And that's the problem. And I don't know that Zach is that guy either. You know what I mean? So I think that's where you do have a lot of depth at the Jets in the Jets organization, but short of that, you don't have the guys that are really, that are above the depth. That's the problem.
Talk about elevation, guys. The Jets drafted a receiver who could go up, get the ball better than Devonta Smith. Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. That's a specialty. Just lob the ball high in the air and let him do his acrobatic skills. He's phenomenal. He's looked that way. He's an OBJ type with making these crazy catches.
Well,
and so I hear you, but again, he's got to show it during the season. That means the quarterback's got to throw him those balls, and he's got to catch those balls. Until then, you can't say that he's better than Devonta Smith.
No, he's not.
You're just going on opinion. You're going on opinion, not necessarily fact. 1 + 1 = 2, Jack. That's a fact.
I didn't say it was a fact.
Obviously, I had that brewing all week long from when you said that to me.
Listen, I can say, if someone said to me, Tom Brady has had a better career, is a better quarterback than Geno Smith, and that's a fact. It's not a fact. I mean, you can say he's had a better you could say it's a fact he's had a better career, though, because you look at numbers as a fact. I don't know.
Of course you can. I mean, come on, guys. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. And he asks real quickly, where does OBJ end up? I think OBJ ends up to any team that he thinks is going to possibly go for the chip. I think that's what he's doing here on out. I don't think that he's going to make a decision on that until about week 10, and at that point, he's going to be able to sign with whoever, get on the team, play for like 5 weeks, and then maybe have one decent game in the playoffs and go from there and try to get another ring. That's what I think he's going to do.
Team, which would you pick if you had to pick a team?
Say that again?
If you had to say which team he would go to, what would be your guess? It's
Buffalo.
A wild guess. Buffalo?
The Jets.
Buffalo.
Or maybe the Patriots. They take a lot of receivers with problems in over there. So
but I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to contend. I think that he'll go with the Bills. I think that he could possibly go back with the Rams. I think that he could, I guess it'll depend on what the receiving core looks like as you're going on. I wouldn't be surprised for him to go with Aaron Rodgers, if he's only going to be doing it for a half a season.
For sure, he won't go with Baker. That's guaranteed. That man ain't going nowhere near Baker.
So,
I got a feeling. I was going to say the Rams. I'm going to take a flyer and guess the Kansas City Chiefs, because I'm going to think OBJ is going to look at the quarterbacks who can get the ball to me the best. And but who knows? It could be anyone.
I think it could be anybody in the West, Jack. Anybody in the West, OBJ would go play for. So.
I think that once they find out that the West isn't that great, it's going to limit his options. I know you guys think that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I proved it last year. I knew what I was talking about, and you guys were all wrong about your picks, and I was right about mine. So let history sort of hold true until I'm wrong. When you guys can tell me that I'm wrong, I'm sure you'll do a little dance. But in the meantime, I'm right, and you guys have been wrong. So
it hasn't been official, but Jeff Coat, I think, might be picking the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, at the very least win the NFC.
Listen, he is a big Giant fan. You know that, Jack? I mean, he says he's not, but
growing up, yeah.
He said since the Cowboys started paying his bills, then he became much more of a Cowboys fan after that. So, but listen, guys, we do appreciate everybody hanging with us today. It was a lively day. This has been a very lively week in general. We have been nonstop going at it with each other. Yeah, Jack and I mean, and we only heard one Keith Hernandez reference today, so I'm real excited about that. Although we did talk about New York sports much more than I wanted to. You know, it's like all these debate questions about New York. Who cares about New York?
You know, Pags, I say the same thing. I say the same thing to them when we do our debate show when Doc is on, because it always comes back to the Yankees. I'm like, we're not here just to talk about the Yankees, guys.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
we're not gonna
everybody,
talk about the Red Sox this year. I mean, there's not much to talk about this year.
yeah, because they stink too.
There should be more Philly